Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Classic Comics. And today I wanted to review a comic I read on Comixology. By the way, because of the lockdown, Comixology is doing this offer where you get 60 days of free comics to read. You can't read everything, you can't read all the new releases for free, for example. But what you can do is you can go to this Unlimited tab here. And under here, you'll find a whole bunch of stuff that is available free of charge. And I mean, they've got, it's a mix of new and older stuff, but they've got some really, really good comics that are available here to read for free. They've got New Frontier, Hellboy, you see here, Winter Soldier, and lots of other stuff. But what I wanted to talk about today is this comic book, The 12. So this is a 12-issue limited series that was released around 2008, written by MIchael Straczynski, who created Babylon 5. You may have heard of him before, and also did several comics in the late 90s, early 2000s. Now, the artist is a guy named Chris Weston. Personally, I'm a big B5 fan, so when JMS started writing comics, I was very interested. However, I've had very mixed reactions to JMS's comic book work over the years. Generally, I found that I don't like his work on big popular characters. I didn't like his Spider-Man run very much. I didn't like his Thor run very much. I didn't like his run on Superman either. On the other hand, I really liked his work on the Squadron Supreme, and I really liked his Rising Stars series. So I was curious if I would enjoy the 12 or not. I remember seeing it at the comic shop back when it was released, but I didn't get it at the time because I was pretty much out on Marvel at the time. And this was right after Civil War, which I am not a fan of. Personally, I think Civil War is where Marvel really just kind of started to go down the wrong path. I really need to do a video on Civil War and how much I hate it, but that'll be some other time. But as for the 12, wow. I mean, this series is so good. I mean, really good, and I'm so glad I read it. So now, the plot involves a group of costumed heroes who are involved in the push into Berlin during the closing days of World War II. As you can see, we see Cap, Nick Fury, Namor, the Human Torch, and others involved in a battle, but there's a bunch of other heroes that aren't as well known. Now, then a group of these lesser known heroes, they break away from the others and they go into what appears to be an SS headquarters. And then they wind up going down into this underground chamber. And it turns out that the whole thing is actually a trap. The Nazis are waiting for them, and then they hit these guys with some knockout gas, which renders them unconscious. And then they put the heroes in some stasis tubes, and the idea being that they would go into hiding until the Allied forces leave and then come back later and study them in order to figure out how their powers work and then duplicate them. But the Nazis wind up getting captured and killed by the Russians. And so no one else knows about these heroes in suspended animation underground. And so they sit there until 2008 when there's some construction going on. And the ground collapses and this guy falls down and they find the chamber. And then subsequently, the US government takes them back to the States and wakes them up. And of course, you know, it's the thing of they don't want to tell them the whole truth because it might be too shocking or upsetting. So they set them up in this kind of fake looking like 1940s hospital. Kind of like what they did in the Captain America movie, the first one. In fact, I wonder if that isn't where they got the idea for it. But eventually, of course, a couple of them, they notice things that are out of place. And then this guy here with the mask, Captain Wonder, he kind of breaks out of the place, and of course he sees the future world that they're living in, and then they learn the truth about their situation. Now, there's plenty of culture shock when they learn that 44 years have passed, and the early issues of the series are mostly about them trying to find their place in this new future world. They reveal their real names to the military since they've been assumed dead for over half a century. Then the military offers to give them a home and a place to live and support them as they continue to fight crime. Now, since most of them really don't have anywhere else to go, they agree to the offer. Now, as for who the 12 are, these include a guy named Captain Wonder. He's the guy in the red, white, and blue outfit. Captain Wonder is a chemist who gets doused with a chemical called Wonder Fluid. And I swear I didn't name it. But it gives him super strength, flight, and invulnerability. And then there's a female character called the Black Widow who has some mystic powers. And then there's a guy called the Blue Blade who wants to be kind of a movie star. He thinks he's the new Errol Flynn. Then there's the Mask, the Fiery Mask, who has flame powers. And then Dynamic Man here, who has flight and some strength and invulnerability. Then there's the Laughing Mask, Vigilante, and then this guy here who's called the Mastermind Excello, who he's called. Again, I didn't name him, but he has telepathy and he can see the future. Then there's Mr. E here, who again is basically just a vigilante type, as well as the Witness right here. And then there's the big guy here, Rockman, who claims to be from a hidden underground subterranean kingdom. And then finally, there's the Phantom Reporter, this guy here, who was a reporter who again became a vigilante. And then, and there's also Electro. Now, Electro is a remote-controlled robot, and of course, his creator died after the war ended, so the robot is inactive, and part of the story is involves them trying to figure out how to get the robot working again. Now, the Phantom Reporter, he serves as kind of our POV character. We generally see things from his perspective, and through him, we get to know the other heroes. Now, Captain Wonder's wife and two sons, and that's Captain Wonder there. Captain Wonder's wife and two sons died. His sons both died fighting in Vietnam, so of course he's woken up to find that his whole family is dead, which of course makes him kind of a tragic character. And Captain Wonder is kind of what you would consider the most kind of classic good guy out of the bunch, kind of the Boy Scout type character. If you think about, kind of like how Captain America is in the movies, or at least he was initially. He has no real dark secrets. He has no real, what you would call glaring real defects or character flaws. The main embellishment to his character, of course, is that he's a tragic character who's lost his family, which makes him sympathetic. And then another very powerful character is another one called Dynamic Man. And this is him here. And he was transformed into a superhuman by his father, a scientist who wanted to create a more advanced future human. And he takes quickly to the future. Unlike the others, he doesn't really have any problem adjusting or settling in. As far as he's concerned, this is where he belongs. He was made for the future, quote unquote. But he's not very popular with the other heroes as he's pretty arrogant. Then there's the Black Widow, who is the only female character. We see her here. And we eventually discover that they don't go into details, but she's made some sort of bargain with a demon of some sort of evil spirit or demonic power. And so at night she has to go out and hunt souls who have made deals with the devil, so to speak, but haven't sort of paid up yet or fulfilled their part of the contract. So she basically hunts down and collects these souls for him. And then there's the the Blue Blade, who is a guy who believes, again, that he's kind of Errol Flynn. He runs around in this sort of a swordsman outfit. And he sees this mostly as a chance to cash in and get rich. And then there's the Fiery Mask. He's a guy who is hiding a secret about the origin of his powers. And then there's the Laughing Mask, a character who is a district attorney who is frustrated by seeing criminals escape punishment and puts on a mask to seek justice outside the law. And then Excello, as I've mentioned before, he's a clairvoyant who knows a lot more than he's letting on. Then there's the Witness, who is kind of like the Shadow. He can see or sense the evil in people and knows the crimes they've committed and is compelled to hunt down these people and exact justice. Then there's Mr. E, who, again, just a kind of street level vigilante. And finally, Rockman again, and then we've got the Phantom Reporter, who is a vigilante who tries to make a difference out in the city streets. So finally, like I said, the early issues, they involve them coming to grips with their situation and trying to get over or to start over in the 21st century. Now, most of them are horrified because their families are dead and or have moved on. The others aren't thrilled with the way the future has turned out. A few embrace their new circumstances, but there are some who are not happy with it at all. And then, as the series progresses, there's a series of murders that take place. And the latter half of the series is about trying to uncover who the killer is. These people had never met before. They went to Berlin together, so they're really strangers to each other. And no one really trusts one another, and everyone is a potential suspect, especially after members of the 12 themselves start being murdered. Now, the writing by JMS is excellent for the most part. The characters are all distinct. They all have clearly identified personalities. Their motivations for crime fighting are explored and given depth, and their behaviors and the choices they make are all believable and understandable. And really, all these characters, some get more attention than the others, but they all get their own story arcs, their own subplots. And man, this is such a breath of fresh air when you compare it to modern Marvel's writing. The men behave like men, the women behave like women, the heroes aren't perfect. Some of them are arrogant, some are vain, some are shown to have prejudices. They're from the 1940s, so they have views that aren't exactly woke or PC. But some realize that they need to change in the modern world while some others don't. The real difference between current Marvel writing and this story couldn't be more glaring. They don't talk like high school students. They don't say everything with this sense of irony or scorn. They aren't obsessed with pronouns. They aren't obsessed with identity politics. And the writing isn't just solid. I mean, it's really good. I recently did a video on Watchmen and how I think it's a bit overrated. But this is Watchmen level good, in my opinion. In fact, I think I might start doing a series of videos on comics that I think are as good or better than Watchmen. And I'll just go ahead and say this is the first one in that series. It's the interaction of the characters that really makes this series so good. They act like real people, not like NPCs. Some of them get along, some of them don't. After reading this, I was asking myself, why is JMS able to write such well-realized characters with diverse personalities, motivations, and goals? Why, while most writers at Marvel today seem to write all characters the same way, with the same attitudes, the same style of speech, the same viewpoints, etc. I think it's because these SJW types are pretty much all narcissists. They've had this left-wing agitprop drilled into them by the educational system, and they're convinced that their opinions are the only proper ones. They see themselves as the very best people, and anyone who doesn't agree with them is a bad person. So, obviously, the hero should sound like them. Every hero should sound just like them, because if they didn't have the same views and opinions as the writer, then they wouldn't be good people, and they wouldn't be heroes, would they? So the heroes are really just a mouthpiece for them, really, through which they can convey their views in order to make society quote unquote better. And of course, if you don't support this, then you're a garbage person or whatever. Now, the series isn't perfect. There are a couple of plot holes I caught when I read through it a second time, but they're minor. They don't ruin the series for me. The murder mystery is handled very well. Now, I will admit that as I was reading this, I began to suspect that I knew who the killer was. And I was hoping it wouldn't be the character I thought it was, because that just seems so obvious. Now, it turned out that it was the killer. The killer was the character I suspected. But it involves a plot twist, a couple of plot twists that I never saw coming, and the resolution of the mystery wound up being very satisfying. So yeah, I mean, the 12. I give this series a big thumbs up, and I recommend you read it too if you have the chance. I think you'll be very glad you did. If you have read this and you can tell me what you think of it, you can look me up on Twitter at Comics Classic, or let me know in the comments for this video. Also, if you found this video informative, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.